Hi, I'm Reed. This is Crowline Publishing. So I used to work for video games as a writer. I'm not really well enough for full-time work anymore, so I don't do that. It's a fun job. Money's okay. It's better than outdoor work, although I've never liked dealing with licenses. Pain in the ass. I put a joke into a Warhammer 40,000 game once. This is an orc nose ring. It is covered in crusty orc punk germs. It is the worst thing in the galaxy. I got a note back. No, it is not. I know, man. It was a joke. Just never mind. But that's just what dealing with licenses is. But as far as bad parts go, that's not really that bad. But anyway, there's kind of like three kinds of tasks that you get when you're a games writer. The first is just being called in to do marketing copy and stuff. The second is what I call ancillary writing, which tends to be the most common kind of writing. Now, you get a task and you might get told, okay, well, I need you to do 200 swords, 200 guns, 200 axes. I need names, I need backstories, I need a little lore discussion about it. This is kind of like, on the tooltip and the little quotes come up. That is ancillary writing. Maybe you have to generate 100 character names. Maybe you need to do 400 NPC barks, which are just things that they will talk about when you click on them, or will randomly say. And yeah, 400 NPC bucks, $3 each. That's 1,200 bucks. That's the fun of games writing. You can also go and do stuff like research historical events or scientific processes or whatever. Anything the director might need, they generally come to the writing staff. And then you get to narrative. And sometimes that's pure world building, which is, I think, the most fun. You design the complex backstory and you tease that out through gameplay. Then there's actual quest design. And then there's actual quest design itself. And increasingly, companies hire designers to do the writing. I don't know that's a good idea. Writers have a particular skill set, designers have another, but that's just how it is. It's a cost-saving measure. If you ever wonder why sometimes a game, the writing goes terribly, generally it goes terrible because the writers have been taken away or are being forced to do something that they're not very good at in the first place. But sooner or later, you do get the opportunity to do the good stuff, telling a story, man. It's what you want to do. It's what you're there for. So you pitch the story, and it goes to the head writer, yes or no. And the head writer might then take the idea to the producer, or even the director. So that's 2 or 3 people that your idea has to impress before it gets anywhere. Then you have to take it to the designers to do it to see if it's practical. All in all, generally speaking, it's very rare that ideas make it into the game unscathed. It's heartbreaking, but that's just how it is. So anyway, that's the general experience of writing for video games. It's very mediated, it's a very complicated process, and there's so many steps between you and your ideas and what the actual game gets. It can be very heartbreaking and demoralizing. But I don't want to sound too much of a downer because I do think that there are skills that I learned writing for video games that have translated into my RPG design work. The first thing is a lack of upfront world building. You load up a video game, you do not want to read a 10-page document on the history of the world, of the culture, of who your parents are. You want to get into the game, you want to play it. And that's the same with RPGs. No one wants to read your 10-page world building document. They just don't. We've talked about this in the past. So how you create an interesting world is through the physical objects. You might find an ancient magical sword. Pretty common event in D&D. Oh, this is the sword of the demon lord. What demon lord? Well, and this is where your bards and your wizards can shine because they know these sorts of stuff. The demon lord lived 5,000 years ago and he was a right old bastard. Oh, okay. That's interesting. There was a demon lord. 2 sessions later, you get some magical armor. It's the armor of the demon lord. Turns out the demon lord's empire was centered right around where the campaign is taking place. Okay, that's interesting. Guess we're on ancient demon burial ground. A few sessions after that, you find the staff of the Dragon King. Who was the Dragon King? Well, the Dragon King threw down the Demon Lord. Oh, okay, now you're getting a good, coherent backstory. And you're not doing it through making your characters, making your players read a whole bunch of books. It's just coming in naturally. And this is more a literary device. This is more a show, don't tell sort of thing. And I think that's a really effective technique in RPG design. Show, don't tell. Bring things on and tell the story as it comes into the game world, not through information that your players have had to absorb, not the characters. Another skill I've learned is how to write for a very small audience and how to impress a very small audience in games. Often this is just one person, the head writer or the director. So if you know that your head writer is super into stories about schoolgirls who have no feet, then you are eventually probably going to write a schoolgirl with no feet storyline for your game. It's fine, it works, it impresses people, and ultimately if you're a DM of a narrative game, that's what you're looking to do. So if you know that your players hate traps, don't use traps. If you know your players love to fight grimlocks, fight grimlocks. It's not a sin to play up to your audience, especially in an RPG setting where ultimately you're looking to entertain. However, and this is something I've learned, that even in commercial writing, sometimes you've just got to try to get your own. You did not become a writer to exclusively service other people's trademarks in the same way that you didn't become a DM just to give back people what they want. You're not a piñata, you're not a loot bag. You do have your own ideas and you should feel free to bring them into the game world. Just be aware that sometimes it's okay to play up to the crowd. And the last thing I'll talk about for now that I've learned is to engage your players very quickly with interesting and unique NPCs, because that is what will keep them interested in the game and that prevents them doing the equivalent of skipping the quest text. If you have an interesting NPC who they like or who they respect or who they're afraid of or whatever, telling them what the mission is, they will become far more engaged in the mission and they won't just press that X button or they won't just check their phone, they won't just check out and then eventually ask you 45 minutes into the session, wait, what are we doing again? Who's this? What? What's the grail? So you don't want to do that. That's the last thing that you want to hear. You really want to have engaging NPCs, creating drama that the player characters can then get into. There is no amount of backstory, no amount of DMs telling players, no amounts of campaign preparation that you can do that will be as a tenth as effective as an interaction with an NPC that motivates PCs. It's just how it works. No amount of backstory, writing, lore will motivate a player character as much as something happening to the player character, as much as an interaction that the player character had personally with an NPC. Not only is this a memorable event for PCs, it allows you to set up the most effective adventure tool that you have for a memorable, interesting night of gaming. A simple twist. The princess is actually in love with the dragon. The ogres only stole the gold to pay off a much worse giant. The undead warband actually hates the necromancer who's raised them and really wants to be free. If you have a good, interesting NPC interaction at the beginning, if that quest text that scrolls up on the screen in a video game, if your acting out of the NPC is effective in D&D terms, that quest twist will be much more powerful and much more interesting for your players. Alright, so I'm going to let it rest there. Lots of stuff to talk about. We might come back. I've not even talked about the effect that budgets have on your commercial writing. But before I summarize, why don't you give this video a like? Go on and be a friend. But what video games told me about pen and paper design is to trim the fat, to cut away the unnecessary. Don't worry about communicating your backstory. Make it come out in play. It pays off artistically to put the emphasis not on your ideas that you need to communicate, but about the player experience. And also, tabletop games should be proud to be tabletop games. They are messy and they are unpredictable and they are alive in ways that video games can never be. Still the discipline of writing for video games, but never forget the heart of a pen and paper RPG is the interesting characters talking to other interesting characters and the messy chaos of a story that evolves out of that. That is the heart of narrative pen and paper role-playing game design. Nothing like it in the world. I might come back to this topic. Anyway, thanks for listening. See you next time.